So the path to overcome that the Golden Rosy Cross proposes, we could call it have three parts, so three arcs. The spiritual life is a transcending of fear and to some extent also of the worry and anxiety that we talked about in the last two presentations. This process starts with you yourself, to know yourself, to learn how these fears and limitations are structured within your own being, and therefore driving the sense of change that you need by knowing yourself. And this is one of the things which the School of the Rosy Cross definitely shows us is highly important, is to overcome ourselves by, first of all, recognizing with what we call the arc one, or the outside arc there, that there is a divine element within us, that there is something which is more powerful than our biological urges, that there is something that requires an energy source from the outside. So we have a need for self-knowledge, and the School of the Rosy Cross offers us concrete and practical examples so that we can transform ourselves through this process of self-knowledge. And so yeah, next slide, please, Joseph. The first arc starts in the heart. Now you remember that Andre talked about the three centers, the three centers of consciousness, or the three sanctuaries. So starting in the heart, that is where that spiritual spark lies dormant. And once that spiritual spark ignites or initiates a spontaneous awakening, it changes first of all, our biological, but also our conscious decision making. So we still get the same inputs. We still listen to the news. We still hear of wars and, things, but we no longer need to react as definitively on a biological level. So we realize that there really is a reality beyond the everyday life and the algorithms that are playing or sending us into that continuous state of anxiety, worry, and fear. The fear of listening to that inner divine calling, or that spirit spark that we have in our own heart, sometimes also leads us to a little sense of fear. It's not the biological fear, but there's a worry that we need to change. And that our ego at least, doesn't want to change, because we have, as we talked about earlier, we have built our own sense of security based around our ideas of who we are, what we can do, where we belong in society. And when we have to look at those, sometimes that leads us to question, who we are and what our important things in our life are, which can also lead the fear of the unknown. So, but at the same time, this leads us to our journey of spiritual liberation. So for those who have that calling, they need to follow it. And it's a bit like those walls that we have built around us for safety. A little chink in the armor allows the light of the spirit to reach us. So in this slide, we can see that the walls that we build in our own being are made up of our egocentric consciousness, but also the fears and the worries, those limits that we put on our own being. And when we identify completely with them, that wall is strong. That wall protects us, but also limits us. And when the spirit spark within our heart has been opened, then the light can flood into our being, and we can follow that light. So we recognize that you are not the actual fear yourself, but there is fear within me. And then how can you overcome that? So next slide, please. So this first arc is called recognition. It's to know yourself, to see with insight how your life is, and what makes up the you that you identify with. Amid this toxic environment and all the forces that Andre talked about in the first part of our presentation, that divine inner spark acts as a light for the human consciousness. The moment when we start to look for that and listen to that in our heart, there's a profound recognition. There's the transcendent element can halt or break through or undo that wheel of self projection of anxieties within our life. And therefore, we can break that cycle. So this element, not being part of our personality, but operating on a totally different level, can offer us a way or a perspective that is outside of our normal consciousness.